We've warned you, and it's coming to pass. The Muslim Brotherhood is now demanding the Egyptian government resign. It's one more sign the Islamic radical group is now playing a higher profile in the protest movement. Look back at the Bolsheviks in 1917. They were the organized group that were the beneficiaries of the Russian Revolution. They took over the country. Then you have Lenin, Stalin, purges, millions killed.
Well, the rise of the Brotherhood has many in Israel worried about what could happen if they came into power. Chris Mitchell has the story from Jerusalem.
Egypt's Muslim Brotherhood, the largest opposition party in Egypt, issued a call for a new era to begin in Egypt and for Egyptian President Mubarak to leave office.
The president should step aside. He must leave his position. He has already, and his regime already failed by this people will. He must leave his position and the new era should start. This is our position.
Mercy also said all the Muslim Brotherhood wants is a free and democratic Egypt. But many observers are suspicious.
They're not in favor of a real democracy. They may be in favor of one man, one vote once, which is what happened in Gaza. Then they canceled, of course, any future elections.
Former CIA Director James Woolsey told CBN News he feels an Egyptian government influenced by the Muslim Brotherhood would look a lot like Gaza.
Getting the Muslim Brotherhood involved it's like getting Hamas involved. Hamas is a Muslim Brotherhood organization. If you like that kind of government for Gaza, you'd love the Muslim Brotherhood taking part in the government in Egypt.
Woolsey also feels the Obama administration underestimates the influence and cunning of the Muslim Brotherhood.
I'm not sure the White House grasps this yet. I think they have forgotten that there's a term in Arabic called taqiyya, which essentially means lying to infidels, and I think that is what they are listening to. Muslim Brotherhood organizations, some in the U.S. and others that say, oh, this is going to be just fine, it's not a problem. Well, it is a problem.
The consequences, Woolsey says, could be disastrous.
If the White House or anybody else lets Muslim Brotherhood participate in this transition or formation of constitutional amendments for Egypt, I'm very worried that we will have a strong Islamist influence in a future Egyptian government, and that means a very bad situation in the Middle East for Israel and us and everybody else.
Chris Mitchell, CBN News, Jerusalem.
Thanks, Chris. We've warned, we're warning, we're sending out warnings, and I hope you'd write your congressman, your senator, write the White House, make your protest heard. You know, the State Department has sent a signal. We will accept the Muslim Brotherhood. They sound so nice and cozy, but remember, they chose Yasser Arafat. They formed the Palestine Liberation Organization, which is a terrorist group. They support and organize Hamas. And from all we understand, Al-Qaeda is part of their web. It's one of those things that we need to recognize, but it sounds so benign. And they speak, as Mr. Woolsey said, they speak such deceptive words, lying to the infidels. I hope there's some infidels smart enough to understand what they're doing. Lee Webb has the rest of our top stories. Lee?
Pat, Republicans won major victories in state elections last November, and as Jennifer Wishon reports, they're using their newfound majorities in many of those states to restrict abortion.
Welcome to Ohio, ground zero in the latest fight to restrict abortions. The state legislature is considering a so-called heartbeat bill that would ban abortions on any fetus once a heartbeat is detected.
Once the heartbeat is detected, the baby is protected. Pretty simple. If you can hear that baby's heartbeat, then that child will be protected by law.
Heartbeats can be detected as early as 18 days into a pregnancy and by 6 weeks in most cases. In the Supreme Court's Roe v. Wade decision, women have the right to an abortion until their fetus is viable or able to live outside the womb. It's only at the point of viability that states can restrict abortion under the ruling.
This bill totally eliminates the notion of viability, and it pushes the ban way up into the first trimester, which is clearly unconstitutional.
A constitutional challenge to Roe v. Wade is just what many pro-life Americans want. The heartbeat bill in Ohio is one of a handful of bills moving through various state legislatures aimed at restricting abortions, as newly elected Republican governors and legislators flex the influence they gained in November. The Indiana legislature has advanced a bill requiring doctors to tell women life begins at conception and that a fetus might feel pain at or before 20 weeks of development. It also requires women be informed an abortion can cause infertility and increases the risk of breast cancer. In Texas, lawmakers have advanced a bill requiring doctors to perform a sonogram on women seeking an abortion, describe whether the fetus has arms, legs, or internal organs, and offer to let the woman hear the fetal heartbeat. Supporters say it's necessary because some doctors are denying women like Teresa Sadler the chance to see the sonogram.
During my procedure, a sonogram was performed. The screen was turned away from me the entire time that I was seeking my procedure. I asked if I could see the screen, if I could see the sonogram, and I was told that it was best if I not see it.
Opponents complain the legislation puts politics between patients and doctors.
Requiring the performance of an ultrasound when a doctor does not feel it is necessary or dictating the type of ultrasound that must be done is establishing what should be a professional standard of care by politics.
Whether the legislation in these state legislatures passes or not, newly elected Republicans are making it clear they intend to act on their pro-life principles. Jennifer Wishon, CBN News.
Pat, all of this a result of those major Republican victories in state houses across the nation.
Well, it's marvelous what they're doing, but you hear that that representative of, I don't know, Planned Parenthood or ACLU, whoever it was, saying, well, this bill is, quote, unconstitutional. There's nothing, not one word in the United States Constitution about abortion, not one word about abortion. To say something is unconstitutional is ridiculous. The only thing is, is Roe versus Wade. And it was called by some the Blackmun's abortion. That bill was so flawed. I mean, that case is so flawed. And it was a put-up job about somebody who was actually a tool of Planned Parenthood and the ACLU down in Texas. And to think that this is, quote, the constitutional standard. The Supreme Court has made some rulings, granted, but I think the pressure from the United States, because people are now appalled, the fact that it's gone 50 to 60 million abortions in this great land. Lee?
Pat, a landmark study finds that the benefits of fetal surgery on children with spina bifida greatly outweigh the risks. Spina bifida affects the spinal cord and often leads to paralysis and brain damage. Researchers, though, report that babies who undergo surgery in the womb are less likely to suffer those major complications.
This is a big breakthrough. For the first time, we can show a clear-cut benefit, treating a non-life-threatening malformation by repairing it before birth.
The study finds that 41% of children who have the fetal surgery are able to walk by the time they're toddlers. That's twice as much as those who have surgery after they're born. Spring will not come soon enough for much of the South. A winter storm in the nation's midsection has dropped up to 2 feet of snow on areas still digging out from last week's massive storm. Charlene Israel has that story.
Ice and snow buried many parts of the South.
This is probably the 4th time I've used my snowblower this year, and makes it, I'll tell you what, it's the only way to go.
The storm turned highways into ice rinks and downtown Memphis into a winter wonderland. The storm made a mess in Arkansas. Parts of the state saw snowfall for 9 straight hours. The mixture of snow and icy roads is making for treacherous travel.
If you have to get out, be very careful. Don't use your brakes that much and avoid hills.
It's a bit dangerous. So there's a risk, I guess, taking to walking out here.
In Springfield, Missouri, a woman was killed when her car flipped over because of icy conditions. For Tulsa, Oklahoma, it's the snowiest winter ever. Thousands of schools in Oklahoma and Arkansas have canceled classes, something kids are taking advantage of.
Throwing snowballs and making a snowman and sliding down the hill and all kinds of things. Just playing in the snow is fun.
Charlene Israel, CBN News.
Yeah, but forecasters say cold temperatures are following the snow, dipping to -11 in northwest Arkansas and -10 in parts of Oklahoma. The number of strokes is rising dramatically among younger and middle-aged Americans. The American Stroke Association reports that between 1994 and 2007, strokes in young women rose 17% and 51% among men. Researchers say it could be the result of the rise in obesity in children and young adults. Pat?
Well, you know, I want to recommend to people that they take fish oil. We've had eminent doctors talking about the benefits of the omega-3 oils. And, of course, not all fish oil is created equal. Some of it can be rancid and you don't want to take it. But nevertheless, fish oil on a daily basis is very, very helpful in preventing things like stroke. So we've got something else, by the way, that we want to point out to you that's coming up next. Something in your diet could be bringing strokes about. Lee?
That's right, Pat. A preliminary study links diet soda to an increased risk for stroke and heart attack. Harvard Medical School researchers noted a 48% increase in heart attack and stroke deaths for people who drank diet soda versus those who drank no soda. There was no increase in people who drank regular soda. They don't know why there's a greater risk, but it may be because diet soda drinkers are living an unhealthy lifestyle. Russian scientists are now warning that a major asteroid is going to hit the Earth in the year 2036. The asteroid known as Apophis is bigger than 2 football fields. It will pass near Earth in 2029 and then hit, according to the Russian scientists, on April 13th, 2036. They expect the giant space rock will pass through what's known as a gravity keyhole and change course to hit Earth. U.S. scientists don't agree with that Russian prediction, however. They say there's only a 1 in 250,000 chance of impact. But, Pat, the Russians are pretty specific about that date, April 13th, 2036. One can only wonder if that's a Friday.
Well, undoubtedly it is, but I tell you, with all due deference to those Russians, I think I will have left Earth by then. And if the asteroid hits, it's just be too bad. But, you know, I wrote a book called The End of the Age, and I took biblical prophecy and there's only one thing that'll fulfill what Jesus had to say. You read it carefully. Only one thing, and that is an asteroid hitting this Earth. And you look at Revelation, and it says, I saw another angel fly in the midst of heaven. He had what looked like a flaming mountain, and he cast it into the midst of the sea. And the only thing that would be like a flaming mountain was a great big hunk of rock. Mine was 1 kilometer, 6/10 of a mile, and I guess 2 football fields. That's not quite that. It's about the same size, but this was enough to bring down a global winter for at least a couple of years.
Well, your book was fascinating because you did all that research on what would happen if one of those things hit in the ocean. It's pretty unbelievable.
Well, the tsunamis, the volcanoes, I mean, the Earth's crust is so fragile, and when this thing hits, it'll start a chain reaction. So there are many of these rocks hurtling around in space. There are hundreds and thousands of them, maybe millions. And just a question of how soon. We've been hit before, and it'll happen again. You just want to pray that you ain't alive when it happens.
A federal judge has dismissed a lawsuit which was trying to block a prayer luncheon from happening today at the U.S. Air Force Academy. The suit was brought by a faculty member and the Military Religious Freedom Foundation. But the judge ruled they did not prove they had legal standing to bring the suit. The plaintiffs say the prayer luncheon violates separation of church and state because it appears to be sponsored by the Air Force Academy. But the Academy's chaplain is making it clear the prayer lunch is sponsored by the chapel, not the Academy. The husband of an American missionary killed in Mexico says he will continue their work in that country. Nancy Davis died last month after gunmen opened fire on their truck about 70 miles south of the Texas border. She and her husband Sam were visiting churches they helped establish in Mexico. Sam says he prays for the men who killed his wife, but believes they will never be caught or tried. Despite the danger, he says he will continue to visit and support those churches in Mexico. You can always get the latest from CBN News by going to our website at cbnnews.com.